Adam, my son, was always such an imaginative, playful boy. I never saw this coming. Well, I mean, I wish he had a real father as a kid. He left before Adam's 10th birthday. He was abusive and paranoid, but never to Adam. I kept him away from that. It's just Adam was always so resilient and sweet. I guess I just see him through a mother's eyes, and I was in denial long after this process began. It wasn't until he moved away and started taking classes at the junior college that I noticed the changes in him. He kept calling me in the middle of the night, saying that he saw someone in my room watching me while I slept. And I just thought he was being rebellious, drinking and smoking marijuana, but it persisted. When he dropped out of school, I was disappointed, but I just thought college wasn't right for him, that he would find his way, but he kept getting in trouble and he started to become known to the police. He was always in the wrong place at the wrong time. He said he was living on couches of friends, but I think after a while, nobody could keep him at their house. He was so erratic and could be so intense. It was scary. I wanted to help, but I have two younger kids at home and it's hard to have him in the house. He would get angry. It would upset the children. And I mean, I wanted to pretend I didn't know, but I knew. I knew my son was living on the streets and I didn't have a way to help him. I remember getting the call when Adam was arrested. He had gotten confused and then broken into a house. He thought it was his friends. He would have never done that on purpose. It was late and he didn't take anything. He actually just sat down and watched TV. I mean, I know the poor owner, she was scared when she came home and found my son sitting in her living room. And I understand why she called the police. It's just that he was also scared when the police showed up and he was confused and he thought he was being attacked, so he ran. And I know what you were thinking, that he should have known better than to run, but you have to understand that he thought they were attacking him, that it was in a place he had ever right to be. And I just know my boy was afraid. I don't know what Adam was thinking when he sat there alone in his cell. It must be so frightening to not understand where you are or how you got there. The court appointed attorney, she said that she thought something was wrong. And I don't think she fully understood the extent of his mental illness. How could she? None of us really understood. The person that my son truly is in his heart was unraveling before our eyes, trapped somewhere underneath his illness. I don't know how many days passed by with my son alone in a cell without treatment or care. I don't like to think of him pacing in that small space, trying to make sense out of his situation. I mean, eventually, I know there was an assessment. I was told that he was babbling to the lawyer and he was going to have to undergo a full competency evaluation. Eventually, he was found incompetent, and I felt such relief in that moment that he was finally going to get help, that all this trouble was going to be worth it in the end if it meant my son once again would be competent. I waited a couple of weeks before finally calling the sheriff and then the hospital to see when he was going to be transported so that he could be treated. I was told this could take up to 7 to 9 months, and my poor, confused son was just going to be waiting in jail that whole time. I felt my heart drop. I think it was the first time I realized this wasn't just a phase, and I began to fear if my son was ever going to get his life back. I hated the idea of him just sitting alone, waiting. I barely spoke to my son while he was waiting. He was just too lost, too consumed by his situation. And I was a wreck that whole time. I I tried to understand what was going on. I joined support groups and I read anything that I thought might help. After he was transported to the state hospital, I remember finally talking to my son again and him telling me that he was upset he had to leave his jail cell. It was horrible to think he had gotten used to it, but I suppose it's the devil, right? It's been hard to help him. I'm still trying to be a mother to my other children, but I call on a regular basis so that they know that someone out here cares for him. He told me once that there was a chip in his head, that the government put it there to control him and that I was paid to help them do it. So yeah, he's not always medication compliant because he believes that we're out to get him, that this is his everyday reality. When I talk to him, he tells me about his group sessions, about the fake trials of fairy tale stories that they put on to help him build his understanding of the court system. And I often find myself wondering if he still remembers me reading him those same stories as a little boy, if the little boy he was is still locked somewhere deep inside of him. It seems like he's getting better, I guess, to me at least. I mean, maybe a little bit better. I guess when I say better, I don't really mean better, but he can talk and he's taking his medication. So maybe that's my new definition of better. He was back in jail for a little while before his trial, and he seems like he took a few steps back, even though it was just a short time frame. And it's got me wondering if I even understand what competent means anymore. In the end, he's been declared competent and his charges have been dismissed. I suppose I have to accept that this is Adam's best version of competent, though it certainly doesn't mean that I've gotten my son back and that I know what future lies ahead for him. I try and take it one day at a time to hold hope for my son. I try and hide my apprehension as he goes back out into a community that I fear was never built to support him in the first place.